Some of the shit that came out in the trial, though, like he's forcing his girlfriend to have toots while he was sitting there jacking off with a bandana on. She'd rub the jizz on his. Like, what are we even
This isn't gossip. This isn't hearsay. This is sworn courtroom testimony. And the second Joe Rogan entered that courtroom, the entire atmosphere shifted. Known as the voice behind the most powerful podcast on the planet, Joe didn't walk in with laughs. He walked in with receipts. And what he dropped could burn Diddy's empire to the ground. When Rogan hit the stand, you could hear a pin drop. No one was expecting him. Not the media, not the court, and definitely not Diddy. In his hand, a thin black notebook, packed with off-the-record accounts from years of podcast guests. Conversations too dark to ever go live. People who didn't know where else to turn brought their truths to Joe because they trusted him. And then, boom, the first revelation hit. Back in 2023, Rogan privately spoke with a former bodyguard for a major A-lister. Off mic, this man claimed Diddy was hoarding files, videos, audios, actual physical evidence, all locked in a fortified server room inside his Miami estate. Not just a room, a bunker. Inside were hours of tapes, not just random footage. We're talking about celebrities, politicians, high-level execs, all allegedly caught on hidden cameras, many without their knowledge. The witness called it leverage. Rogan described those infamous parties not as wild, but dangerous. Phones confiscated, blindfolds used, secret cameras behind mirrors. And this wasn't a one-off, it was routine, a full-blown ritual, and people knew. Jay-Z, LeBron James, even Jennifer Lopez. They might not have joined in, but according to Rogan, they weren't blind. The courtroom was stunned, and then came the tapes. Rogan handed over audio from his podcast archives, legit, recordings, forensically verified. These weren't anonymous whispers. These were real people, telling real stories. I've interviewed Navy SEALs, CIA insiders, Joe said. None of them described anything this twisted.
He told of a music producer who'd once attended one of Diddy's private events and walked away traumatized. Hidden cameras and smoke detectors, spiked drinks, celebrities turning a blind eye. Another guest described a man in a mask being paraded like property. Some were told, "What happens here, stays here." Others got threats. Joe flipped through his notes. One source said plainly, Diddy called it leverage. And then it got worse. A former yacht staffer reached out to Joe anonymously. They thought they were there for a music video. But once the boat crossed international waters, curtains drawn, rooms locked, security everywhere. Guests rotated in and out like clockwork, cameras in the mirrors. Some crew were ordered to drug drinks, some said no, others didn't. One guest, added to the list at the last minute, refused a payoff to stay quiet. 2 weeks later, his apartment was broken into. Nothing stolen, except for his hard drives. And Joe wasn't finished. He revealed the existence of what insiders called Diddy's Church. That's the code name for the server room in his mansion. Air-gapped, armed guards, encrypted backups. Rogan said if even one of those tapes made it into evidence, half the industry would fall.
He even received threats, emails warning him to back off, some linked to Roc Nation's PR firms. But Joe wouldn't stop. He couldn't. He spoke of a rainy day folder, stored off-site, backup footage, clips that could destroy not just careers, but governments. One file allegedly featured a high-ranking politician. Rogan didn't name names. He didn't have to. This wasn't just about Diddy anymore. This was about a system built on fear and silence. Joe told the court he wasn't worried about lawsuits. What scared him was the world pretending this wasn't real. He stared Diddy down and said, "If you're innocent, let them search the basement, open the vault, play what's in that black box." By the end of his testimony, Joe Rogan wasn't just a podcast host anymore. He was a whistleblower, and everyone in that courtroom felt it. He ended with this: "If even one kid avoids stepping into that nightmare, then every risk, every threat, every silenced voice, it was worth it." He stepped down. Diddy didn't even blink. And from that moment on, the trial was never the same.